Well, good evening, good people. I hope you've had a blessed Monday so far, and I hope you had a blessed weekend. I haven't been on for a few days because I did have some family emergencies, but it's been a few days, and I'm just going to catch up with the news for a little bit because there's been a lot going on these past few days that I haven't been on here. It looks like Pope Francis, he's still hospitalized. He's been in there for about 2 weeks. And they said that they thought he had like maybe a minor cold, but now, he's been admitted to the hospital and he's been there for a minute. Now they're saying that he has double pneumonia in his lungs, both of his lungs. Now, part of his lung was removed. Part of one of his lungs had been removed when he was young, or I think he had some type of bronchitis or pleurisy or some type of breathing condition. So now they said he does have double pneumonia in his lungs. He is 88 years old. They said he's suffering some type of minor kidney failure as well. Now keep in mind, I done a story, I talked about a story that they did on him a few weeks ago where they said that he suffered 2 falls. I think late last year in December and early this year in January. He suffered 2 falls where he broke his wrist and I think he injured his chin or something. So usually when they start falling like that at his age, they begin to decline. And so we've been conflicting stories out of the Vatican. He's at a hospital in Rome right now. And they're saying that one cardinal in New York, Cardinal Dolan, I think his name is, said that the Pope is close to death. And they have been rehearsing his funeral. And they saying one report said he's tying up loose ends and saying that he's probably not going to make it. They really don't know, because then there's another report saying that he is still in critical condition, but his condition is guarded, quote unquote. So they don't, and they're saying that they're just kind of monitoring him. But either way it goes, it seems like to me with this Pope, with his advanced age and his condition, he might have to end up, even if he makes it out of the hospital this time, he might have to end up resigning. So we'll see. But according to the cardinal in New York, Cardinal Dolan, they're saying that the Pope is close to death. And I tell you about this Pope, there's a prophecy from the 12th century by a minister named Malachi. Let me get it right. There's a prophecy of the popes where they were saying that Pope Francis is the 112th Pope, and that 112th Pope, and Malachi predicted that after Pope Francis, let me see, 112th Pope, Malachi's prophecy is claiming that it says that Pope Francis is the 112th Pope and the last Pope before the apocalypse or judgment day, according to this prophecy of Saint Malachi. And they said that this prophet has been predicting every Catholic Pope every century, all 112. They said this prophecy is pretty accurate, and it says that Pope Francis will be the last Pope before Judgment Day. So I posted the video up there that talks about this prophecy, so we'll see. But yeah, his condition is not very good. There's some reports got him close to death, and some reports are saying that he's in critical condition, but they're saying he's going to make it. Either way it goes, he might end up resigning. And I watched that movie Conclave too a couple of weeks ago for some reason. And they're saying that they are, thinking about doing a conclave because they don't know if this Pope is going to make it at this point. And if he does, he might end up having to resign due to health reasons. Other than that, what else is happening? This this actress, Cynthia Erivo, the one who starred in that movie Wicked that came out last Halloween, I guess they've now cast her in the role where she's going to play Jesus Christ in a production of Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl. And this woman, Cynthia Erivo, she's British, she's an actress, and she identifies as queer, or bisexual, or whatever she is. She's completely bald. She looks like a demon. And she just represents every bit of the debauchery in Hollywood. And so she's taken on this blasphemous role where she's going to be playing Jesus Christ. If this ain't blasphemous, I don't know what is. It's just so disrespectful of the way way Hollywood disrespects Jesus Christ. It's just so blatant with it now. But this woman, something's going to happen to her because she starred in that movie Wicked on Halloween, and now she's playing Jesus Christ. Don't be surprised if something don't happen to this lady, because they are really just like when they disrespected God during that awards show. Was it during the Academy Awards or the Oscars? And then you see what happened. He burnt down LA. They're going to keep playing, watch. And God is just going to go ahead and just unleash all kind of wrath on Hollywood, period. He's going to just completely destroy Hollywood. Let him keep playing with him. But, okay, so that's enough with her. Let's see. The government, somebody hacked the government systems at HUD, at the Department of Housing and Urban Development headquarters in DC. They hacked into the government system and uploaded a video, an AI created video of Elon Musk and Donald Trump that depicts Donald Trump kissing Elon Musk's feet, his toes, and saying it says on the video the title of the video says, "Long live the real king." And they actually hacked into the government system and posted that video and on HUD screens throughout the building today. They did that today. And this is in response, I told y'all, this is in response to all these things that they're doing with cutting all these jobs and these layoffs and, you know, cutting all this USAID or USAID funding and things like that. This is just a tip of the iceberg. They think they're being disrespected now. These people they are really about to start acting up out in the streets. They said they got a February 28th economic blackout date protest planned for the 28th. The economic blackout where, you know, they don't buy anything. That's going to take place on February 28th. And they said, don't just, you know, it's just a day where people are not going to buy anything. But this is in response to Elon Musk, because he just pulled another stunt where he required all federal workers. He sent an email requiring all federal workers to send an email in 48 hours explaining their job descriptions to him. And he gave them 48 hours to do it, and if not, it would be considered a resignation. Well, he's being sued for that right now. And I think a judge has blocked him from doing that. And a couple of the heads of these federal agencies, like Kash Patel at Kash Patel at the Department of Justice, or is he with the FBI? Either way it goes, Kash Patel, I think Tulsi Gabbard, and, you know, a couple of other department heads told their employees to pretty much ignore that email. Don't pay him no attention, because this is just ridiculous. He's trying to run the government like he does Tesla, you know, and his own companies, and that's not how the government works. First of all, Elon Musk doesn't have the authority to fire any government workers. And that is really pissing a lot of people off. They've also upped his security detail because he's doing that, because he's playing with people's lives. And these people are going to start reacting more aggressively toward him. So, yeah, they've upped his security detail. I think the FBI has deputized Musk's private security detail, because these moves that he's making are dangerous, and they know that. And these people are going to start reacting to this stuff that he's doing. Because you are playing with people's lives. You are not these federal employees' boss to where you can just fire them like you do the employees at Tesla. That's just not going to happen. And you're going to be met with some aggressive opposition. Trust me. But yeah. Also, Trump has cut off all the migrant welfare benefits last week. He signed an executive order ending all federally funded taxpayer benefits to illegal immigrants. So, and the reason why he did this is because he wants to disincentivize, or he wants to make it not so attractive or lucrative to cross over into this country illegally anymore, thinking that when you come over here you're going to get free benefits. So Trump has pretty much wiped all that out. They're not going to be able to get food stamps, free any free federal benefits. They will no longer be able to get, these illegal immigrants. And that's because, you know, they just had to put a stop to it, because they feel that once they swim over here, they, you know, they're entitled to all type of free benefits that a lot of them are currently getting, and Trump has put a stop to that now. So there's no incentive to cross over here illegally at this point. But one, now that they're policing the borders, you're going to get caught and probably prosecuted and deported, and then once you do get over here, you're not going to qualify for any free benefits anymore. So yeah, that's what he did with that. What else? There's been another doomsday fish that has swam up on the beach in Mexico. It's Playa Camada Beach in Mexico. It's Baja California, down there in Mexico, by California and Mexico. Another oarfish has washed up in California on February 10th, I believe. And this fish, they usually turn up dead, but this one was alive. And there's a video, they said this video has 9 million hits on YouTube or Instagram one, where the fish was swimming. They caught the fish alive, and it had washed up on the beach. And usually when those oarfish wash up, this is usually a harbinger for some type of doom, some type of natural disaster, like a tsunami or an earthquake or a natural disaster of some type. And so we'll see. But it's been, what, this is what's today, the 23rd? Yeah, today's yep, 24th, whatever. It's been about 2 weeks, so we'll see. But that's usually a bad sign or an omen when that doomsday fish or that oarfish washes up. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, there have been, since the last time I posted, there has been one more plane accident that resulted in the deaths of 2 people. It was a private aircraft at the Maranara Airport. I think that was in Arizona. This is 2 dead after planes collide mid-air in Maranara area. 2 planes hit each other. These were private aircrafts at an airport for private airplanes. And I think one of them was a student getting flight lessons on one aircraft, and then the other was a couple or something. But anyway, these 2 planes collided, and in one of the planes, the 2 people survived, and in the other plane, the 2 people died. And it was at the Marana Airport. And I believe that is in, I want to say Arizona. Marana. Yep, that's in Arizona. That's the second plane accident that's happened in Arizona. So, also, this week, well, in the past, 2-3 days, there have been 3 incidences where planes have had to been grounded. There was one incident where a plane had to been grounded coming from, it was going to New Delhi, I believe. Let me get this story up. It was rerouted to Rome. It was a bomb threat. One of the planes had to be rerouted to Rome because there was a bomb threat. I think it was going from New York to New Delhi in India. Anyway, they had to reroute that plane because it was a fake bomb threat on that plane. It was an American Airlines flight. And then there was another incident where a plane had to make an emergency exit at LAX due to smoke on board. And then there was another, this is a Delta flight. Then there was another plane that had to, everybody had to deboard this plane. It was a flight leaving from Atlanta to South Carolina. There was smoke and haze on that plane, and a passenger actually filmed the smoke on that plane and all of the passengers being deboarded because of the smoke on the plane. So that's 3 incidents that have happened in the past week, in addition to this fatality in Arizona with airplanes. Further fulfilling the prophecy in Matthew 24:20 about the flights in the wintertime. So, what else is going on? They've busted this crime ring of, it's a crime ring out of their migrants, illegal migrants, immigrants from Chile. It's a Chilean crime ring who was breaking into all these athletes' houses. They finally caught these people who were posing as, I think they were posing as construction workers, and they were going across country breaking into athletes' houses, pro athlete houses, and taking millions of dollars. I think they said they've got close to like $2 million in jewelry and other items and stuff. They broke in Patrick Mahone and Travis Kelce's houses here in Kansas City. They broke into some basketball players' houses in Minnesota, I believe. They would follow these athletes' schedules and know when they are playing during the games. And they would burglarize these athletes' homes, because they would be posing as work crews, or they would be work crews going in working on these mansions. And so they would have the layout of the house, of the property pretty much. And so they would catch these athletes while they're away working, playing a game, and go and burglarize their homes. So anyway, they were stupid enough that they were online posing with the watches and with the jewelry and things like that. And I think that's how the feds caught on to them. So they've been arrested. But this is a crime burglary ring out of Chile. Migrants out of Chile. And get this, they busted another burglary ring, different group of people from Chile, who were pulling jewelry store heists, breaking into malls after hours, posing as construction workers, drilling down holes and breaking into jewelry stores, into malls, and staying in those stores for hours, looting the jewelry store. And they said they netted up to like over $12 million in stolen jewelry. And they were going across the country, breaking into these stores in these malls, posing as construction workers. It's crazy. 2 different Chilean theft rings have been busted, breaking into these millionaire mansion homes of these athletes. And then the other group was breaking into these malls across the country and stealing millions of dollars in jewelry. Now, all they probably going to do is just deport these people, and all they're going to do is come back over here. But then again, they do have these folks in custody, and they have indicted them. So, they did say, the guy that did the jewelry heist, they said he's only looking at like 10 years, but that could increase because, they was all over the country committing all kind of crime, so they may get more than that. But if they just deport them people ain't gonna do nothing but come right back over here and commit more robberies and Lord knows what else. So yeah. Okay, what else? We know about there was a gunman, a person who held went to a hospital in Pennsylvania and took hostages and ended up killing a police officer. Pennsylvania. Yeah, he went into a hospital and killed a young officer. I think the officer's the only one that died. He took hostages. This person actually took hostages, and 6 people were hurt. Oh, 2 have died. 2 are dead now. 2 are dead. That's messed up. And I think they said this young man was like a 7-year veteran with the police department. He was only 30, but they said he had started the police department when he was like 23. And he's been, a police officer for 7 years, and he was killed in the line of duty. But it said it left 6 people injured and 2 dead, including the suspected gunman. Oh, so they killed the gunman too. That's what happened. He entered into the hospital. It said he entered into the hospital intensive care unit carrying a bag with a handgun and zip ties. So what was the motive? Okay, this was it in York, Pennsylvania? Yes, it was in York. It's in York, Pennsylvania. He went in there and he held hospital workers hostage, opened fire, and shot people, including a doctor, a nurse, and a custodian, and 3 police officers. A hospital staff member was also injured. Wow. What for? What led up to the shooting? What did he do this for? He tied up a nurse. What? Okay. This is crazy. See, these people, you just don't know. These people, you don't know what type of idiots be out here. He just ran up into this hospital. For what? I'm trying to figure out what was the motive. Okay, come on, slow computer. I don't know why you moving so slow. But anyway, yeah, this person he went into the hospital, went in there shooting, took hostages. Like I said, officer killed days after his 30th birthday. Oh man, he just turned 30. Just turned 30, young police officer, ended up losing his life. So, it says a motive is revealed. Oh, it says anguish and anger at the very recent loss of a loved one apparently spurred on the man who would target the intensive care unit.
Save money and time with Sign Now, a powerful e-signature solution.
So
digitalize and simplify any workflow in any industry.
Let me shut this up.
Send documents.
We're going to turn now to the hostage standoff that left multiple people injured and a police officer dead at a hospital in Pennsylvania. We're learning new details this morning on a possible motive. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky is here with the story for us. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Michael. Police now believe they know what sparked the violence, but that really means little in this small Pennsylvania community grieving after a selfless young cop was killed. A senior law enforcement official tells ABC News anguish and anger over the recent death of a loved one who was treated at the hospital sent 49-year-old Diogenes Archangel Ortiz into UPMC Memorial with zip ties and a semi-automatic handgun. He shot a doctor, a nurse, and a custodian, then held a staff member hostage as police burst in. The suspect died in a shootout, but not before wounding 2 policemen and killing Officer Andrew Duarte. He had just turned 30, and it was not even noon. Duarte was one of 13 officers in the West York Borough Police Department, the first.
So I guess he wasn't satisfied with the treatment that his loved one received at the hospital. The loved one passed away, unfortunately. He went back and he shot the hospital up. He was 49. They said he died in a shootout. That is insane. Some people just can't take it. They just can't take the pressure. It's an 18-year-old. They call her a girl, but this is a woman. 18-year-old woman, American tourist in Paris, just threw her newborn baby out of a window while she was on a study trip with friends in Paris. And they're trying to say that she has some condition called pregnancy denial, where she was in denial or didn't know she was pregnant. No, they're making excuses for this person. She is 18 years old, and they said she threw this baby out the window with the umbilical cord still attached to the baby. And so they said they heard screaming or whatever, and they tried to, hurry up and run to the baby's aid, but unfortunately the baby did not survive. But they're trying to make excuses for this 18-year-old. They didn't even give her name. But they said that she was, obviously she got some money from somewhere because she was down in Paris. Well, she was out over there in Paris, pregnant, and she delivered this baby and threw it out the window. And unfortunately the baby did not survive. But they're trying to make excuses for this person. She's an American tourist. And they're trying to make excuses talking about pregnancy denial and all this other stuff. She didn't know she was pregnant. No, she knew what she was doing. She threw that baby out that window because she did not want it. So, Paris probably going to go easy on her. If she's in America, she'd be charged with murder right about now. But, yeah, it's just getting crazy out here. Kids are just not safe anymore. Also, there's a sad, heartbreaking story about a little boy in Detroit. Said he warned CPS, Child Protective Services in Detroit, that his mom wanted to kill him. And his calls were ignored. And they sent him back into the care of his mentally ill mother. And she ended up killing him. I think the little baby was 9. Detroit boy, mom wanted. Yeah, they said he told them. He told them that his mother wanted to kill him. Why would you send him back to live with this animal when he's already, and she killed him and buried him in a shallow grave. He was 9. Detroit boy told CPS his mom wanted to kill him months before prosecutors said she did. His name is Zamar King, and he told CPS that his mother chokes him and whoops him with a belt. And he had already warned them. And guess what they did? They closed his case out. So whoever this caseworker and these investigators that was in charge with this little boy, there's something, they had to get a report from somebody that this little boy was in danger. And they said he had told them that she wanted to kill him. Why would you send him back? Why would you send him back to live with her? So she ended up killing this baby and buried him in a shallow grave. And they trying to say she's mentally ill, but obviously she's not that mentally ill that she could kill him and then bury him to cover her tracks. So the cause of death, her name was Brandy Pierce, charged with killing little Zamar King. And they said the cause of death was smothering and neck compression. His body was found in January after a neighbor reported seeing what appeared to be a foot sticking out of the ground. She had a trail of complaints, they say. And these lazy Child Protective Service workers did not take the complaints seriously. This is malfeasance. This should be a crime. It says, by law, records for Children's Protective Services are guarded closely even after a child dies. But internal CPS documents obtained by 7 News show that state employees had been warned repeatedly and for years that Zamar King was in danger. At least 4 times records show Brandy Pierce was the subject of CPS complaints. The first came in 2015 after she admitted to marijuana and alcohol use during her first trimester. It happened, she said, before she decided to keep Zamar. See, they knew, they were on notice that this idiot, that this person was an unfit mother. And this baby ended up getting killed. Although he had warned, he had already told them that his mother was trying to kill him. Somebody need to be charged for this. Somebody need to go to jail for this, for dropping the ball like this. This baby would be alive if somebody had took their job more seriously and took his fears, his complaints more seriously. Goodness gracious, man. There was another case also in, this is out of Pontiac, Michigan, which is like a half hour outside of Detroit, where this woman, 34 years old, her name is Kelly Bryant, abandoned her 3 kids, ages 15, 12, and 13. Her son was 15 and the daughters were 12 and 13. Left these kids in an apartment in Pontiac, Michigan for 3 or 4 years, they say. No, I think 4 or 5 years. They said since 2020, since COVID. Left these kids, abandoned them in an apartment to fend for themselves. Said she lived not too far from the kids and would bring the kids food and drop it off on the porch, or either have DoorDash deliver the kids food, and left them there all by themselves while she lived somewhere else. She on Facebook posing in pictures and stuff and posted on Facebook, on social media. And these kids is over there, said they were living in so much filth and feces that they said that the authorities that came in there to clean it out, and the first responders that went in that apartment had to wear hazmat suits. That's how nasty that apartment was that them kids was living in. For years, she left them. So they and the fathers, of course, they got excuses, but I'm gonna tell y'all this. I don't care what excuse this father gave. The father said, well, I filed a motion with the court to try to see my kids and she refused to let me see it. That's the most flimsy excuse that you can give. Because them kids, matter of fact, she had one child. They said she had a 9-year-old that lived with their father, that was not living with these other kids. She had a 9-year-old who the father did have custody of that child. But the other fathers of these other kids, he's going to say he went to court and tried to get visitation rights to see the kids. And what I'm thinking is that this is a flimsy excuse. He was not in those kids' life. What that was is that he probably, because he had been incarcerated, they probably just made him go and comply with child support as a condition of his release, and he had to go register with child support regarding the kids. And so he may have filed a motion to try to see the kids or whatever, but this man was not in these kids' life, because had he been in these kids' life on a regular basis and providing for them, he would have known the condition that these children were living in. So there's no excuse that that man can give as the father for why he did not come and help these kids. There's no excuse at all. But they got her, they locked her up, and they charged her with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse. And the judge set her bond at $250 million. And they said that she could face up to life in prison because she left those kids in such poor condition. I left the video up there, to kind of give you some details on the condition that she left these kids in for years just to fend for themselves. And the prosecutor was, just like I'm saying, you don't leave an animal like that in those conditions. And so this case is really just, tugs at your heartstrings. The community has came out and they have, donated all kind of food and clothes and school supplies, and they've raised money for the kids. So of course now, they're with some of her family members, and the judge has barred the mother from even trying to contact the kids in any way through the family, through the phone or anything. The judge gave specific orders that mother is not to try to get in contact with those kids whatsoever, because she instilled fear in those kids to where they stayed in that apartment and never came outside, never answered the door. They said the boy, the 15-year-old boy, the oldest one, only had been outside twice in those years that they had been locked in that house. The judge made provisions that she is not to contact those kids and try to tamper with them, do any witness tampering whatsoever. But of course, she ain't gonna be able to afford that bond, $250 million. So she's gonna sit in there. But yeah, now the family is coming forward because there's money being raised for the kids. Of course, everybody want to come out now. They so caring and concerned. But yeah, this is a most egregious case of child abuse. Where the victims actually live, but they suffer severe damage, psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual damage. These kids are damaged not beyond repair, but they're going to need a lot of intensive therapy. And Jesus Christ, mainly Jesus Christ, they are going to need a lot of help. So that's very sad. We talked about oh goodness gracious, there was a lady in Las Vegas, who is charged with drugging men in some type of romance scam. She would drug these men, and I guess they were elderly gentlemen or something, to where these men actually died. And she, some type of romance scam she would, pull on these men. Said caused several deaths. And then she would go and try to drain their bank accounts and their crypto accounts and things like that. And so they finally caught up with her, the FBI did. And they're still investigating. But they said this is like a serial killer situation where this woman did this to several men in some type of romance scam where she would literally drug these men and then rob these men and then try to take money out of their bank accounts. But she's like a female serial killer out of Las Vegas, and that's crazy. Says new information. It was a 17th Street shooting on 17th Street, 17th Avenue. What is this? Well, these people are just, boy, when you think, like I said, when you think the world can't get no more wicked than it is, man. Shooting, SHOOTINE, 17th Avenue. Let's see, 3 days ago. I don't know about that. Okay. Was that in Phoenix? Oh, they're giving me 17th Avenue. Shooting on 17th Avenue. Anyway, that dude, the old man that killed, no, he didn't kill him. The old 84-year-old man who shot Ralph Yarl, the 16-year-old black boy who went to the wrong house to pick up his twin brothers here in Kansas City. Well, it's actually North Kansas City, a suburb of Kansas City. The young man, Ralph Yarl, he was 16 at the time of the shooting. He went to the wrong house to pick up his twin brothers. And an 84-year-old white man, Andrew Lester, opened the door. Well, he didn't even open the door. I think they said he shot Ralph Yarl twice through the door, hit him in the head, and I think hit him in the hand. So he shot him in the head, and Ralph must have used his hand to block the other bullet, and it ended up shooting him in the hand. But anyway, this old man, he's 84 years old. It's been 2 years ago, and on the eve of trial last week, I think last Friday, on the eve of trial, he ended up taking a guilty plea to second-degree assault, and I talked about that. But anyway, he entered a guilty plea on Friday and died that Monday. So he's 86 now, and this, last week, he died at 86 of natural causes because he was in bad health or whatever. So he died after he pled guilty to the crime, but before he could be formally sentenced for the crime. This Andrew Lester guy, 86. He was 86 at the time he died, but he was 84 when he shot Ralph Yarl. Ralph Yarl, he's now in college, but you know, he's going to have to go through a lot of probably rehabilitation and medical treatment, you know, in order to treat that bullet wound in his head and in his hand. And the family is suing Andrew Lester's homeowner's insurance, so now they're going to have to also sue his estate, you know, for shooting poor Ralph. But they said this man died. He never apologized once for shooting Ralph. Said he never apologized. He never appeared on. He was unapologetic up until he died. So the family feels that they didn't get justice at all in the least, because he died before he could even be sentenced. But my whole thing is, he's going to still have to answer to God at the end of the day. So sometimes, you know, they may escape man's justice, but they can't escape God's justice, divine justice. So that's the thing that the family has to keep in mind, and have faith that God is going to mete out God's justice is the most just and on point, that any more so than man. So rest in peace to the old man. Hopefully he repented and asked the Lord to forgive him, but he definitely did not apologize to the Yarl family. He didn't apologize to Ralph Yarl, and they said that he just was unapologetic up until the end. So yeah, some people are just hard-hearted. In the end time, it says people's heart will wax cold. People will be stiff-necked and hard-hearted. You know, he almost killed this boy, 16 years old. Almost killed this boy, ended his life, and did not feel not 1 ounce of sympathy, remorse, or guilt about it, and went to his grave with that in his heart. But okay, so I talked about the doomsday fish that washed up in Mexico, Baja California, but then they said there was another deep sea fish that washed up in the Canary Islands, and they call that a sea devil fish. Strange fish that's washing up that rarely ever wash up, you know, ashore. What's that about? They call that a sea devil fish. This oarfish, which is the doomsday fish, and then this, they call it an angler fish, aka a sea devil, blue sea devil. All washed up this month in February. Different parts of the world. What is that about? Luigi Mangione, the guy that killed the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, they said he's raised over $500,000 for his legal defense fund. And he's being labeled a hero for killing this man. The people are labeling him a hero, and they're raising money. He's raised $500,000 for stalking this CEO, this victim, and shooting this victim in cold blood. It was a premeditated murder. And they're saying that he might go get off through jury nullification. Jury nullification is where the jury, despite all the evidence against you, can refuse to convict a defendant, and that defendant walk. Or he might walk because, you know, the trial might result in a hung jury or a mistrial. But things are really looking up in Luigi's favor, despite the fact that he premeditated the victim's murder, and killed him in cold blood in broad daylight in New York City. Ain't that what Trump said? That he can shoot somebody in the middle of Manhattan and get away with it? Well, Luigi shot somebody in the middle of Manhattan, and he looks like he might get away with it, because there are people all over the country that are sending Luigi money, fan mail, showing signs of support out in the street, holding vigils and rallies for Luigi, and he just might get away with it. All because the people think that United Healthcare is more concerned with their bottom line than people's health, their clients' health, their policyholders' health. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. They can raise $500,000 for Luigi, but poor kids, homeless out on the street in Detroit in the dead of winter, froze to death this month. But Luigi is getting raised $500,000, and migrants are getting put up in 5-star hotels, while these little black kids froze to death in Detroit this month. That's why this world is about to... God's patience is not going to last. I mean, people think God's... that's why this world is winding down. It's winding down. And if this Pope prophecy is any indication of that, we're nearing the end. And like I said, if you have not been saved, blood washed, baptized, and born again in the name of Jesus Christ, I encourage you to do so now, and to pray that your unsaved loved ones get saved as well, because it's getting down to the wire. But I'll put the news stories up here, posted them up here. There's a lot going on, y'all. But I hope y'all have a blessed week and y'all be safe. But it is a lot going on, and I'm gonna go ahead and end this because my film is running out. I don't have much left on it. I'm 45 minutes in, and this ain't even including the news stories. It's all right, y'all. Be safe and be blessed. Peace.
And while Catholics around the world pray for the Pope's health, Cardinal Timothy Dolan admits he's worried. Here's what he told worshipers in New York this weekend.
We of the Catholic family and so many of our friends and neighbors find ourselves this morning at the bedside of a dying father, as our Holy Father, Pope Francis, is in very, very fragile health and probably close to death.
Let's bring in Father James Martin. He's a consultant to the Vatican and editor-at-large at America Magazine. Father Martin, what's your message to Catholics concerned about the Pope right now?
Well, to pray, of course. It's important to pray for anyone who's in trouble or anyone who's sick, and certainly the leader of the Catholic Church. And, someone who really is a very holy man deserves our prayers. And whenever you would meet him, he would always end the conversation with, pray for me. So prayers and, just being united with him. He's a frail, elderly man now, and any double pneumonia and kidney failure is certainly very concerning.
Now, Pope Francis wrote a letter of resignation in 2022 to be invoked if he becomes medically incapacitated. Would a letter like that be valid if that becomes the case?
I'm not sure. The Pope, seems to have wanted to, as you would say, die with his boots on. He's certainly someone who works very hard. I think this is one reason why, he's been sick recently. He's really kind of pushed himself. So I'm not sure about that. Really, it's up to him. My sense is that he wants to continue on and on and on, but he's also a very smart person. And as a good Jesuit, he's someone who would discern the situation and say what's best for the church. That's really uppermost in his mind.
And canon law has provisions for when a bishop gets sick and can't run the diocese. So why isn't there a condition like that for the Pope?
Good question. As far as I know, I don't think that's been put into canon law yet. This is something that I think people have been waiting for him to do. But again, he is the chief lawmaker, and so what he says goes. And he could easily decide to change that. So really, it's up to his own personal prayer and discernment. I think it's interesting also that you see St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict making two very different decisions. John Paul decided to stay on when he was ill. Benedict decided to resign. So again, it depends on the man and his own prayer and discernment.
All right, Father Martin, we appreciate your time today, sir. Thank you.
Pleasure.
What if I told you that there's an ancient prophecy that's been hidden for centuries, and it foretells the reign of one last pope? What if I told you that Pope Francis, the man sitting on the throne of St. Peter right now, matches the prophecy in chilling detail. And now, as whispers of peace and safety echo across the globe, sudden destruction looms. This isn't just a conspiracy, people. This isn't wild speculation. This is the prophecy of the popes. You see, in the 12th century, an Irish bishop named Saint Malachy received a vision of all future popes, carefully documenting 112 cryptic Latin phrases, each corresponding to a future pontiff. For centuries, this prophecy remained hidden, only to resurface in the 16th century with shocking accuracy. It ended with the 112th pope, the final leader of the Catholic Church, a pope only known as Petrus Romanus, which means Peter the Roman. Now, this final pope, according to prophecy, would shepherd the church through its great tribulation, witnessing the destruction of Rome itself. Many dismissed the prophecy, laughing at the idea that it could mean anything for our modern world. Until now, that is. Because Pope Francis is the 112th Pope. You heard that right. And as of today, he is in the hospital, gravely ill with double pneumonia. And according to this news article and others, he doesn't believe he's going to make it. Now, let's be clear here. The timing of this is disturbing. For the first time in modern history, the Vatican has been at the center of a global movement towards religious unity, drawing Christianity closer to Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all the other world religions. Why? And let's not forget that they intend to embrace the presence of quote-unquote extraterrestrial life if it becomes revealed. Here's the thing. Under Pope Francis, the Catholic Church has pushed for a one-world religion, welcoming global faith leaders into what some believe is the formation of a new spiritual order. He spoke of economic reform, sustainability, aligning very closely with the WEF and the global elites who are pushing for the quote-unquote Great Reset. Furthermore, he encourages interfaith unity, basically saying all paths lead to God, totally ignoring the fact that Jesus Christ himself said, "No one comes to the Father except through me." So we have this radical pope, who is the 112th pope, that aligns with the prophecy of the popes, who at this very moment is on his deathbed, suffering from double pneumonia. And here's where things get even stranger. You see, the Bible gives us very specific warnings about the days before sudden calamity. 1 Thessalonians 5:3 tells us, "For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them." Think about it. World leaders are crying out for peace and safety like never before. Just a few months ago, we were on the brink of World War III, nuclear annihilation. And now, with Trump in office, people seem to think everything's fine now. But is it? That's not for me to decide. However, from the Vatican's calls for interfaith harmony to the political elites working towards global unity, the warnings are right in front of us. And just as this movement peaks, just as the world seems to be on the brink of peace, the final pope in the prophecy of the Pope is struck down with an illness that could very well claim his life.
The Vatican says Pope Francis will remain in the hospital as he battles a respiratory tract infection. The 88-year-old pontiff has been hospitalized 4 times since he was elected in 2013. CBS News senior correspondent Seth Doan has the latest from Italy. Seth?
What we know from the Vatican earlier in the day, they called it a complex clinical picture. Dr. John LaPook told us whenever an 88-year-old is admitted to the hospital with a lung infection, it can be a cause for serious concern, particularly if it's caused by multiple different organisms, which is the case with what the Pope is battling. Before he was admitted, we'd seen the Pope breathless at times and various points handing over speeches to aides to complete them.
There's no question about it. The Vatican officials are downplaying the severity. But sources inside the Holy See confirm that this could be the end. If Pope Francis passes away, the implications could be earth-shattering. Will the world descend into the prophesied chaos just as Scripture foretells? You know, we're going to have to just wait and see on this because nobody knows for sure. However, we are watching events unfold in real time, and no one is talking about the deeper implications. But make no mistake, something is coming. Is it next year? Is it 100 years from now? Or is it 1,000 years from now? Nobody knows. But what we do know is that we've seen the warnings and we've read the prophecies. And now we ask the question that nobody dares to ask. What happens next?
The final pope. Tell us about that, Tom.
Yeah, Gary, and first of all, let me preface this by saying it is not hype to say that this is the most important research I've ever personally been involved in. And the prophetic implications of it could be beyond any kind of hype that I'd be able to add to that anyway. It does use a famous Catholic prophecy that's simply called the prophecy of the popes. People can look it up on Wikipedia if they want to know more about that. But what makes this prophecy important is that given almost 900 years ago, 1139 or approximately 900 years ago, was published out of the secret archives of the Vatican, right? Brought out and put into a book called Lignum Vitae over 400 years ago. But what does this prophecy do? What does it say? Well, it tells us every pope that would exist from the time of Malachio Morgare, so Celestine II, down to the final pope, who it names Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman. And why this pope is important is because, according to the Catholic prophecy, this will be the false prophet of end times fame who will help give rise to the Antichrist. I've been saying publicly something that I have never said before about any book that I've written, including best-selling books, and that is that this is without doubt the most important research I ever personally have been involved with, because in fact, I can tell you that when Chris Putnam and I were doing the research, there were 2 or 3 times we stopped in our tracks. Stuff started falling in our laps, from dusty corridors inside universities, lost books, all the way to Dane County, Wisconsin, and the murder of Edward Coons. I mean, people are going to read about stuff in here that they haven't read anywhere else, and when you put the math together behind the probability that this is all chance, it becomes, well, let's just say you'd have to be living on another planet not to know that there is something going on, and it smells supernatural.
Now, nobody knows what's coming. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Like I said before, we can only watch and see. But I want to know what you think about this. Do you believe that Pope Francis could be the last pope? Do you believe that he could be Petrus Romanus, according to the prophecy of the popes? Or do you think that this whole thing is just blown way out of proportion? Please post in the comments below. And I want to thank you all for watching this video. God bless you all.
President Donald Trump's death penalty orders have triggered significant legal support for Luigi Mangione, charged with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Thompson was shot outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel while walking to a conference in December 2024. On January 20th, marking Trump's return to the Oval Office, he directed the Attorney General to pursue the death penalty for serious crimes in an executive order. Recently, an anonymous donor contributed $11,000 to Mangione's legal defense fund, expressing concerns that the death penalty could be politicized and infringe upon the defendant's right to a fair trial. The total donations for Mangione now exceed $500,000, with his attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, confirming he appreciates the support. Previously, Mangione faced first-degree murder charges, typically reserved for specific cases such as killing police officers, murder for hire, or terrorism. The New York State Supreme Court indictment also includes 2 counts of second-degree murder, 1 linked to terrorism, along with additional charges for weapon and document forgery. Mangione was apprehended at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after a 5-day manhunt. Police discovered the alleged murder weapon, multiple IDs, and a manifesto in his possession. He is currently detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, having pleaded not guilty. Mangione's next court appearance is scheduled for February 21st for a pretrial hearing. Trump's January executive order emphasized the government's obligation to protect citizens from violence. During his first term, Trump's administration conducted 13 federal executions, the highest rate of any modern president.
Frightening scene at a York County hospital. A man takes hostages and opens fire in the intensive care unit, killing a police officer. The suspected gunman is also dead tonight, and several other people are injured. This all playing out at UPMC Memorial Hospital in York just after 10:30 this morning. Police say 49-year-old Diogenes Archangel Ortiz entered the hospital carrying a bag containing a handgun and zip ties. They say he proceeded to the ICU, where he took multiple staff members hostage, using the zip ties to bind the hands of a female employee. Investigators say Archangel Ortiz was holding her hostage when police opened fire. A doctor, a nurse, a custodian, and 2 other police officers were shot and injured. The officer who died has been identified as Andrew Duarte.
Let it not be lost on anyone the act of extraordinary bravery and courage by the healthcare workers here, by the law enforcement professionals, the state and local and here at the hospital level, who ran toward danger to keep people safe. I know that because of their work, lives were saved today here at UPMC Memorial.
The district attorney says Archangel Ortiz did have contact with the ICU earlier this week for a medical purpose that involved another individual, but they have not released a motive.
The kids were living in a real-life nightmare.
The charges are 3 counts of child abuse in the first degree.
The Oakland County prosecutor charges a mother in what she says is the worst neglect case she has ever seen.
And this is the mother right here. She's 34-year-old Kelly Bryant, accused of abandoning her children for years.
And Bryant is expected to be arraigned in court tomorrow. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Ty Steele.
I'm Kimberly Gill. That comes after Oakland County prosecutor Karen McDonald revealed new information in the case. So let's get right out to Will Jones. He's live in Pontiac with more. Will.
Kimberly and Ty, Kimberly Kelly Bryant, I should say, is facing the most serious charge for child abuse, first-degree child abuse. We can learn more about this case in court tomorrow for the arraignment, but investigators say the kids who lived at that house lived in fear of their mother. They had been cut off from the outside world for years.
We say a lot, this is the worst I've ever seen. And I've stopped saying that because every time I say that, I see something worse.
Kelly Bryant is facing child abuse charges, accused of leaving 3 of her kids to basically fend for themselves at a home in Pontiac.
Police were astonished to find anyone in the location because it appeared to be uninhabitable, with piles of garbage and refuse several feet high, including large amounts of human excrement.
At the home, police say they found a 15-year-old boy and 2 girls, ages 12 and 13.
At the hospital, the children struggled with completing basic hygiene tasks like flushing a toilet and brushing their teeth because they had not done it in years. The children were forensically interviewed and described having virtually no physical contact with their mother, suspect Bryant, or the outside world in several years.
Oakland County prosecutor Karen McDonald says Bryant moved out of the home around 2020 or 2021, leaving 3 children at the location. When the food supply ran low, McDonald says the son would text Bryant and food would be delivered. Police say they were called to the home on Valentine's Day for a welfare check because of missed rent payments.
Morally, there is plenty of responsibility to go around for how this was allowed to happen. However, these 3 kids were entrusted to the care of their mother, Kelly Bryant, and the evidence suggests that she effectively abandoned them to a revolting pit of refuse and squalor. There must be consequences for those actions.
McDonald says the 3 children are staying with family right now. Coming up at 6, we're going to learn more about what those kids experience inside this home and how they are doing tonight. We are live here in Pontiac. Will Jones, Local 4.
Okay, Will, thank you.
Did officials with Children's Protective Services miss blaring warnings that could have saved the life of a 9-year-old Detroit boy?
His remains were found buried in a backyard at a home in January. The boy's mother was charged with his murder on February 5th.
7 investigator Ross Jones is revealing internal CPS records, raising serious questions about what officials did and did not do when they heard alarming claims about the child's safety.
We identified some human remains, someone small in stature. Extremely sad day.
The scene at Woodingham and St. Martin's in Detroit was enough to shake even career police officers. The body of a child found buried in a shallow grave.
This case is rather shocking. In my 27-year career, I don't remember seeing anything like this.
It took days for officers to determine that the boy was 9-year-old Zamar King, murdered, prosecutors say, by his mother, Brandy Pierce.
It's alleged that she purchased a shovel. She bound him by tying his hands and feet together. She then put him in this hole and covered him with dirt.
But as unspeakable as the alleged crime was, it did not come out of nowhere.
It's just a train wreck that's going to happen, right? You just see it coming, and they don't do anything about it.
By law, records from Children's Protective Services are guarded closely, even after a child dies. But we've obtained internal CPS records that show state employees were warned for years that Zamar was in danger. At least 4 times, records show, Brandy Pierce was the subject of CPS complaints. The first coming in 2015, after Pierce admitted to marijuana and alcohol use during her first trimester. It happened, she said, before she decided to keep Zamar. There were complaints in 2019 and 2021, both alleging that Zamar had been left alone. The first time in the lobby of a Southfield apartment building, with Zamar telling police he did not know where he belonged. Police later made contact with a relative, and the complaint was denied. 2 years later, on a 78-degree day in May, Zamar was left alone in his mother's locked car for more than 90 minutes while she went to a doctor's appointment. She told police her son was a heavy sleeper and claimed doctors wouldn't let him into her appointment.
It's the pattern, right? Here is a mom, again, where she's repeatedly reported by different people in the community.
Frank Vandervoort is a law professor at the University of Michigan and a longtime child welfare advocate who said Pierce's pattern of behavior and the disclosure that she was receiving mental health services on an almost daily basis should have been a red flag to CPS.
That suggests to me a very severe level of mental health need. So I'm troubled by that, and it raises more questions than it answers for us.
The Macomb County prosecutor denied a warrant request for child abuse, saying there was insufficient evidence and CPS working with mom. CPS would close the case after performing a home visit, finding no safety hazards, enough food, and suitable sleeping arrangements. Then, last April, came the 4th complaint to CPS. This time, Pierce would come here to this Plymouth Hospital emergency room, reporting she was anxious and depressed. Pierce told CPS she had a breakdown and felt herself going into a panic attack. She was questioning whether she should give up custody of one of her children. She'd been evicted from a motel, she said. Her car was repossessed. She was completely out of funds. Once she left the hospital, she and her kids would be sleeping on the street.
On its own, how serious is that?
Critical. This is a family with no place to live. She tells the caseworker, I can't sleep in my car, which suggests to me that she's been sleeping in her car at some points.
But what Zamar told CPS was most alarming of all. He had not been to school in over a year, he said, and doesn't always have food to eat. He said his mother beat him with a belt, that she's choked him with her hands, and that she wants to kill him.
Any rational, normal person walking out on the street hearing this would be completely alarmed by what they're hearing. They would take action. They would call the police.
But what CPS did, according to internal records, was close the case. The investigation found no preponderance of evidence of physical neglect. Pierce was provided with pamphlets connecting her with community services, and a note was added to follow up on her mental health appointments. 6 months later, after Zamar reported that his mother choked and wanted to kill him, prosecutors say she did.
It's alleged that she killed him and that the cause of death found by the medical examiner was smothering and neck compression.
CPS records show that the family was placed at a homeless shelter after that final complaint last April. It is not clear how long they were there. Then in December, Brandy Pierce was found in Georgia. She was arrested after someone reported finding her other child, a 3-year-old, locked in a car alone. Police said temperatures were in the 40s, the child was nude, and there was feces and a deflated air mattress in the vehicle. Citing state and federal law, CPS said they could not comment on this case, but they are heartbroken by Zamar's death and are committed to ensuring the health and safety of all children. Tonight, Zamar's relatives are trying to pay for his burial. They have started a GoFundMe, and we have included a link where you can donate on our website right now.
at WXYZ.com. Beyond horrific. And we asked CPS, is the employee who handled that last investigation, what is their status? Are they working today? Are they under investigation? Were they disciplined? They said they couldn't comment, but there are many, many questions that need to be asked about this.
I mean, it leaves you speechless, and my stomach is just turning over. Where is that mom? She's locked up right now, or she's getting help?
It is unclear whether or not she's still in Georgia. They have to move her to Michigan so she can be arraigned. Her whereabouts right now are not entirely clear, but she is under arrest.
And her other children are safe, as far as we know.
State custody right now.
So many missed red flags. All right, Ross, thank you so much for that report.
Tonight, we're hearing from the accused gunman in a deadly shooting that happened in Central Phoenix this week. The suspect arrested on multiple charges, including first-degree murder.
12 News journalist Jade Cunningham has more details on what he had to say.
4 days after 35-year-old Keshawn Stewart was shot and killed.
Full name and date of birth, please.
We're seeing and hearing from 33-year-old Khalid Williams, the man accused of pulling the trigger.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
On Monday, Phoenix police were called near 17th and Maryland Avenues after reports an argument led to a shooting. According to a police report, Khalid told authorities he and Stewart had been in a long-term relationship, but recently split after Stewart began seeing someone else and possibly getting the woman pregnant. The two came to speak with Khalid at his apartment when the fight began. As Stewart and the girl were leaving, Khalid claims he accidentally fired his weapon.
I was in the incident when it happened. I was there.
Stewart's girlfriend speaking to the judge Friday.
Were you in the vehicle?
Yes, sir, I was.
That was shot at?
I'm also 3 months pregnant with this child.
With somebody's child.
Asking Williams receive no bond.
While we were leaving and he was shooting at us, one of the bullets hit my boyfriend in the back of the head, which is what caused us to crash the car. And he landed on my belly, and I held him. I wake up screaming every night. My son will never know his father.
The state, though, asking for a $1.5 million cash-only bond, which the judge accepted.
Mr. Williams was allegedly in possession of this AK-47 style rifle, although he is a prohibited possessor.
The police report states Khalid told officers he didn't know what made him do it, other than the stress and drama of their relationship, and that the only thing he could do was accept responsibility and pray for forgiveness.
She should be in jail too as well. Well, talk to your attorney about it.
He also spoke at the hearing Friday, despite the judge telling him to stay silent.
They were warned not to come to my home. They were threatening to harm me. She's just as much responsible for this as I am. She should have stopped him.
I tried.
No, you didn't.
Khalid now facing several charges, including first-degree murder and murder in the second degree. He'll be back in court in January. Jay Cunningham, 12 News.
It was a racially charged case that got national attention. Tonight it's over. 86-year-old Andrew Lester, who reached a plea deal last week in the shooting of 16-year-old Ralph Yarl, has died. It comes before Lester could be sentenced on one count of aggravated assault. Fox 4's Malik Jackson here now with what he's learned tonight. Malik?
Yeah, you can see right here over my shoulder, this is the house where this all began almost 2 years ago. This story made headlines around the world. And tonight the case, as John just mentioned, is over with the news that 86-year-old Andrew Lester has died. Last Friday, he pled guilty to a felony in this case, but because of his death, he'll never be considered a convicted felon. Just days after a frail Andrew Lester attended his plea hearing in a wheelchair, taking accountability for his actions, Lester has died. A source tells Fox 4 he did not take his own life. Throughout the process, he battled health issues. Court documents revealed that he lost 50 pounds. He was unable to stay focused, his lawyer said, and they tried to argue he was unfit to stand trial, something that he was evaluated for, but experts determined he could, in fact, stand trial. The family of Ralph Yarl says they have mixed emotions. In a statement, they go on to say for nearly 2 years, Andrew Lester never apologized. Instead, he and his attorney used every legal maneuver possible to delay accountability. Now, another black child harmed by prejudice will never see the man who shot him face the full weight of the justice system. They go on to say while Lester finally admitted guilt, it came at the very last moment after 2 years of stalling. That delay leaves our family reeling. The Clay County Prosecutor's Office says while the legal proceedings have now concluded, we acknowledge that Mr. Lester did take responsibility for his actions by pleading guilty in this case. Our thoughts remain with both families affected by this tragic incident as they continue their healing process. And the last part of that statement from the Ural family is so important because he died before the sentencing. Right. He'll never be considered this convicted felon because the process is not considered to be complete.
And that sentencing was March 7th, right?
Yeah, just a few weeks away. So they're devastated. And in that statement, Ralph Ural's family mentions how he will have to still live with this for the rest of his life.
Willie Jackson, thank you.
We now know a heist at this Cherry Creek Shopping Center jewelry store last July saw the thieves make off with a whopping $12 million.
They took watches, jewelry, and other valuables, and a suspect has now been identified. Your investigator, Brian Moss, broke this story on air and on our website earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, joins us live now from the Cherry Creek Mall with this breaking story. Is the Hyde Creek Jewelry Store saying anything about this new information, Brian?
Michael, Karen, I did stop in a little bit earlier. I talked to a store manager. She said she was not aware of any arrests in this case and was not familiar with any of the details I told her about. But those details are kind of a doozy at this point. Police are saying a South American theft group dressed up as construction workers cut a hole in a wall to get into the Hyde Park jewelry store here at the Cherry Creek Shopping Center last July. And they spent 8 hours inside the jewelry store before making off with their massive haul. The burglary of the Hyde Park jewelry store at the Cherry Creek Mall took place when the mall was closed last July 21st. But the high-end jeweler and police said little about what happened. But now we've learned this man, Gustavo Salas Ortega, a 33-year-old from Chile with arrests in South America for theft, burglary, and robbery, is suspected in the Hyde Park heist, charged with theft of over $1 million and burglary. 3 months after the heist, here at the jewelry store in the Cherry Creek Mall, the FBI says Salas Ortega and a crew of thieves were involved in another sophisticated heist of a mall jewelry store in New Jersey. In that case, 5 people wearing masks and gloves were seen inside the Millburn, New Jersey Mall. Federal investigators describe the crew as a South American theft gang and say the crew likely got into the store through the ceiling, stole many items of jewelry, and disabled the store's alarm system. They say Salas Ortega was seen scouting the mall the day before the heist. When they arrested him, they say he was wearing a $10,000 watch that had been stolen from the jewelry store. Federal and Colorado law enforcement authorities now say Salas Ortega and 3 other people pulled a similar heist at the Cherry Creek Mall jewelry store in July. According to new records obtained by CBS News Colorado, the group traveled to Colorado from California, commonly referred to as crime tourism. They scouted the mall on July 17th, then struck on the night of July 21st, cutting through a wall to get into the Hyde Park store. They were wearing hard hats and reflective vests to apparently disguise their true intent. They got into a vault, according to police.
Tonight, federal prosecutors announcing charges against 7 people allegedly behind the rash of several high-profile home burglaries targeting pro athletes, including Kansas City Chiefs stars Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Authorities say the alleged burglars are all from Chile and part of what officials describe as a South American theft gang. They say they broke into at least 6 different homes between October and December of last year across 5 different cities, stealing a total of roughly $2 million worth of valuable items. Investigators say they used cell phone data to track the group's movements, even finding this photo posing with items stolen from Milwaukee Bucks forward Bobby Portis. 4 of the suspects were arrested earlier this year during a traffic stop when police say they found a Louis Vuitton bag and this LSU shirt belonging to Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow.
Some of the things that they're taking are very identifiable. I think that's where the miscalculation was. If you didn't rob, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, would anyone really have put it on the news? Probably not.
The latest high-profile burglary happening Valentine's Day night at the L.A. home of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, but officials have not named a suspect or said if they believe it may be connected to previous break-ins.
Now, the men arrested have been charged with conspiracy to commit interstate transportation of stolen property. If convicted, they each face up to 10 years in prison. Lester.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
To David's point, yes, this is technically a romance scam, but this is a romance scam on steroids.
Federal officials call it one of the worst schemes they've ever seen, all they say at the hands of this woman with Las Vegas ties. She is accused of not only stealing her victims' money, but also causing several of them to die. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kirsten Joyce.
And I'm Brian Loftus. The FBI says some of her victims live right here in the valley. And as 8 News Now investigator David Charn shows us, they're asking others with information to please come forward.
Federal investigators here at the FBI say they believe this woman lured men in their 60s and 70s on dating sites. They say she then took them over to Mexico, and they believe she may be responsible for several of their deaths.
We believe Aurora Phelps deliberately and methodically targeted older men to drug them and steal from them.
Federal officials announcing the unsealing of charges Friday against 43-year-old Aurora Phelps, a woman with Las Vegas ties accused of drugging men and women and stealing from them.
Once she incapacitated her victims, Phelps stole their cars, accessed their bank and brokerage accounts to withdraw cash, used their credit cards to make a variety of purchases, including luxury retail goods and gold, and even attempted to access their Social Security and retirement accounts.
In one case, Phelps allegedly attempted to liquidate $3 million in stock. Similar schemes are called romance scams, where a person lures another on the basis of love, but then becomes a victim of a financial crime.
To David's point, yes, this is technically a romance scam, but this is a romance scam on steroids.
The FBI nor the U.S. Attorney's Office would elaborate on how long Phelps lived here, but they say at least 4 of her victims are from our area, including one man they say Phelps took over the border. That man later died in a Mexican hotel room. Investigators believe at least 2 more died from Phelps's actions, and they suspect there could be more.
We believe that she likely encountered other individuals who would have key information and evidence for us, or that potentially have a family member that was also victimized by her.
Right now, Phelps is in Mexico, where that long extradition process to bring her to the United States is getting underway. We don't know if and when she will be here to be in federal court here in Las Vegas. Outside the FBI headquarters in North Las Vegas, I'm David Charns, 8 News Now.
The FBI launched a website dedicated to the investigation. A link is on 8newsnow.com.
We have new information tonight about those emails sent to federal workers today saying, explain what you did at work or lose your jobs. That directive coming from Doge and Elon Musk. So here's a look at the email. It says, please reply with 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week. It has a deadline of Monday, 11:59 p.m. Elon Musk today posted this on X. All federal employees will get an email asking what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. Hours earlier, President Trump called on Musk to be more aggressive in cuts to the federal government.
President Donald Trump signs an executive order aimed at ending federal funding for illegal immigrants, fulfilling a promise from his campaign.
Our first and most urgent mission is to remove the criminals that Biden allowed into our country with the ridiculous and very dangerous open borders policy. They came from all over the world. They came from prisons and jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They were gang members. They were drug lords. They came from all over, and they were allowed to come into our country.
The order will direct federal agencies to identify and terminate taxpayer-funded benefits enjoyed by illegal immigrants while improving eligibility verification to block such benefits. This move continues Trump's immigration crackdown initiatives and aims to prevent support for sanctuary policies. Additionally, Trump plans to sign another order to restructure federal advisory committees, requiring cabinet secretaries to identify panels for elimination or reduction.
I'm sure you've heard the news. Government TV's hacked, displaying a video that's got everyone talking. Today, employees at the HUD were greeted with a head-scratcher of a scene. Cafeteria TVs played a manipulated video of former President Trump kissing the feet of Elon Musk. You heard that right, folks. The video, captioned "Long Live the Real King," has set social media on fire. A HUD insider leaked the footage to a Vox reporter, and it went viral within hours. But this isn't just a meme-worthy moment. It's a glaring example of cybersecurity failures and the chilling power of misinformation. Authorities are scrambling to find out who's behind this audacious hack and how they breached government systems. As investigations ramp up, one thing's clear: our digital defenses need a serious upgrade. Stay tuned, news enthusiasts. We'll keep you updated as the story unfolds. Until then, let's hope the next viral sensation is a little less surreal.
A security concern aboard an American Airlines flight forcing international response. The flight took off from JFK Airport here in New York and was heading to New Delhi, India, but it was diverted to Rome because of a fake bomb threat that was received by email. Joining me now for more is ABC's Rena Roy, along with ABC News contributor, aviation analyst, and veteran commercial pilot, John Nance. Rena, I want to start with you. What more do we know about this email that came in that had this fake bomb threat in it?
Yeah, well, Phil, American Airlines just released a statement a short time ago saying that the plane was able to land safely there in Rome, as you said, and law enforcement was able to inspect the aircraft before it was cleared to redepart. Thankfully, as you said, this email was deemed to be a bogus threat, according to a senior official that was briefed on the situation. And officials say 199 passengers were on board. They were taken off the aircraft upon landing. They were bused to a terminal. That is where they were screened. Video showed police vehicles surrounding the plane there and Italian fighter jets escorting it as the plane descended. And now the flight will stay there overnight, according to officials, to let the crew rest before the plane is sent back to New Delhi, or before it's sent to New Delhi tomorrow.
John, I'm curious, is this standard protocol for security concerns? Because we've seen security concerns before, but scrambling jets, is that unusual?
That is unusual, and the purpose for it would be if there was any concern that the airplane might not be under control of the crew. There doesn't seem to be any indication of that here, and so precisely who made that judgment, we don't know. American Airlines, of course, will make a sliding scale judgment, a continuous judgment on whether or not they take this seriously enough to be able to do what they ask the crew to do. But the fighters are pretty unusual.
Yeah, well, it certainly is unusual to see in the sky, and thank heaven it turned out the way it did. Rena Roy and John Nance, thank you both.
Frightening moments for passengers on a Delta flight headed to Sydney, Australia. The flight had to return to LAX last night for an emergency landing. That's because there were reports of smoke in the galley of an Airbus A350. Now, this is video of the plane landing safely from our LAX camera. There were 162 people on board and were rebooked on another flight.
We love to see that. Chesley, thanks so much. Right now, we're continuing to follow some breaking news from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. We have some new video this afternoon showing the inside of a Delta Airlines flight that had to return after passengers and crew spotted a haze inside the plane. This is a look at some of that new video. It was sent to us by someone who was on board that flight. You can see what appears to be some pretty heavy haze filling the cabin of the plane. Delta says this happened right after the plane took off. It was headed to Columbia, South Carolina, and there were 94 passengers on board, along with 2 pilots and 3 flight attendants. At last check, the airline said teams were getting customers to the terminal, but glad that everyone so far, it seems, is doing okay.
We start this Wednesday afternoon with a Fox 10 News alert in Marana, just over 90 miles south of Phoenix, after a mid-air plane crash between 2 small planes.
Here's what we know. Officials have already confirmed that at least 2 people are dead. Fox 10's Lauren Clark just arrived on scene with the very latest. Lauren, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon. An absolute tragedy. 2 people dead after the FAA said this occurred in a mid-air collision right here at the Marana Airport, very close to Tucson. Now, I want to bring in Sergeant Rizzi here with the Marana Police Department. What can you tell us about what happened here? Because this was around 8:30 this morning, correct?
Yes. So what I can tell you is this morning, just prior to 8:30 a.m., officers from the Marana Police Department and members from the Northwest Fire District responded here to the Marana Regional Airport in reference to a report of an aircraft down. Officers arrived on scene, and it was learned that 2 aircraft were involved in the collision. Unfortunately, 2 individuals were confirmed deceased. The investigation is in the early stages and is ongoing, and the NTSB is en route to further the investigation.
And according to the FAA, we found out that the 2 aircraft involved, it's a Lands-Air aircraft and a Cessna 172, and the FAA also saying that there were 2 people on board each of the aircraft. 2 people passed. Now, the other 2 people, do we know anything about their conditions at this time?
From what I understand at this time is the other 2 involved are unharmed and they're doing okay.
Yeah, and again, all of this preliminary information, obviously this is happening as we speak. The FAA also describing this as an uncontrolled airspace, meaning there's no ATC control tower, meaning pilots have to communicate to each other about their positions via another type of frequency. We will continue to be here on scene and gather information at this time, but stay right here with Fox 10, both live on air and online for the latest details. Reporting live here in Marana, Lauren Clark, Fox 10 News.
Outrage is sparked as Cynthia Erivo transforms from Wicked to Jesus Christ Superstar. After playing a villainous witch in the 2024 mega hit Wicked, actress Cynthia Erivo will play God's child in the next Jesus Christ Superstar musical at the Hollywood Bowl. Numerous critics have criticized Erivo's choice to play the title role, with some even going so far as to accuse him of blasphemy. Jesus Christ Superstar actress Cynthia Erivo confirms her involvement. Through a post on her Instagram account, Cynthia Erivo and the Hollywood Bowl announced her involvement in the musical. Jesus Christ Superstar. Just made public. The message said, in part, at Cynthia Erivo joins the Hollywood Bowl's production of Jesus Christ Superstar this summer. The 3-time Oscar nominee, who has won an Emmy, Grammy, and Tony Award, plays Jesus in Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical.
We all know to stay clear of a great white shark if you happen to see one in the ocean. And if you've seen the movie Jaws, then you know why. But this guy, he doesn't appear to be all that scary, at least from a distance. That is until you get much closer and you see its mouth wide open. This rare deep sea anglerfish was spotted recently in the Canary Islands. Its teeth are enough to scare off just about anyone, including sea creatures. And not surprisingly, the fish is also known as the Black Sea Devil.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel. And download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
That's an oarfish. Holy fucking. They've almost never been seen live.
They live a mile deep.
Just come up here to die.
Oh.
Go back in the water. See if they'll go.
Wow.
You getting photos? Hold on, I'll put them in the. Heather, this is amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
It's the smallest one I've ever seen.
Why does he want to die? Got hurt or something.
He may not want to die. Give him a chance and see.
Maybe he smelled the fish blood or something. Oh,
Get the light on it.
God, that thing is cool.
Nobody's gonna believe this.
Nobody's gonna believe this. I got a video.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's wild.
The first one I saw was 24 feet long. They've been found up to 30 feet.
All right. Oh, yeah. I'll move.
You guys get pictures and send them to me.
That is crazy.
This is a really important find.
This is amazing.
A live one.
Yes.
And
They've only
look.
been seen live at very deep depths in dark water. Oh man, I wish Hans were here. He would be.
He'd be vibrating to the nth degree. Send him a picture.
Send him a picture out of it now.